Hello, you're welcome to the teacher channel and welcome to this very presentation. I am very excited that you are here and I'm sure that you are going to get a lot from this presentation. As you can see, we have a very preliminary discussion that will start from today, and the central topic is first aid course. First aid course that is a training program, 2 days for those who are doing the full certification, or 1 day for those who are renewing. So we want to discuss important concepts. This will help you a lot to understand the course, first aid course. So you're welcome on board. What are the objectives of this presentation? At the end of the presentation, you will have a clear understanding of what first aid is. You understand why first aid is important. Is it important? Yes. And you understand why. You also have learned the first aid laws. First aid laws and other foundational concepts will be introduced in this presentation. Agenda. What is first aid? That is number one on the agenda. Why is first aid important? Who are involved in first aid? And of course, other important first aid concepts. So we're going to discuss all those. I am sure that by the time you go through those items, you will have gotten some awareness and some understanding of first aid. Please like this video, like it, click the like button, put your comment, please. You can share, this is very important. You can share to friends, to colleagues, and the people that you'll be referring to the training. Please share. If you have not subscribed, please do so. And this is very much appreciated. And you can follow us on X at First Aid CPR2. We have important presentations and discussions on X, formerly Twitter. What is first aid? First aid is emergency care given to an injured or ill person. Emergency care given to somebody who is injured or somebody who is ill as a result of emergency. So that's basic care you give. That emergency care you give to that person is what first aid is all about. Importance of first aid. First aid is important because it can, number one, preserve the life of the injured or ill person. So when you do first aid, you are preserving the life of the person who is injured or who is ill. You can also prevent further injury from occurring through first aid. So you are, through first aid, preventing further injury from occurring. Of course, by doing first aid, you are promoting the recovery of the injured or a person. So there are three P's of first aid: preserve life, prevent injury, promote recovery. Who are involved in first aid? Of course, the patient, the person who has injury, the person who is ill, we call that person patient. victim or casualty, and that person could be an infant, it could be a child, the person could be an adult. And then the first aid provider or first aider is the person that provides first aid to the patient. So the first aider provides basic care, we call it first aid, to that patient. And in some cases where the emergency is considered major, where first aid alone is not sufficient, even though it's important, you will have to engage the paramedics, the EMS, the emergency medical services, and when they come, they will provide some care that is higher than first aid, and we call it medical help. So these are the people involved. Three entities: the patient, the first aider initially, and then in some cases the EMS is also involved if first aid alone cannot handle this problem. Patient categories. So there are three categories of patients, three categories: infant, younger than 1 year; child, older than 1 year but has not reached puberty; adult, this is the person who is going through puberty or who has already gone through puberty. So these are the three categories of patient or victim or casualty: infant, child, adult. Roles of the first aider. Remember, the first aider is the person who is helping the patient. The first aider is the person who is providing basic care to the patient. What roles has this person to play? There are three important roles that a first aider fulfills. Number one, to preserve the patient's life. So that first aid they are doing, it may be basic, of course it is basic, but that role goes a long way to preserving the patient's life. Number two, to prevent the patient from injury. So you prevent injury or even more injury from occurring. So that is another important role that the first aider fulfills. You also, and you here means the first aider, promotes the patient recovery. So everything you do from start to finish is actually geared toward promoting this person's recovery. So you can see that the first aider plays critical role: preserve life, prevent injury, promote recovery. First aider's obligations. Number one, use reasonable skills during first aid. So please, this very important. These are your obligations. These are the things expected from you as a first aider. Use reasonable skills during first aid. Number two, stay within the first aid scope. Keep it simple, keep it basic. Don't go outside the scope. Don't venture into areas that you don't have trained for during the first aid training. Please stay within the first aid scope. And number three, seek and obtain permission or consent from the patient. You have to obtain consent from the person that you want to help. Very important. It is expected of you to do that. Never abandon the patient. So you are not expected to abandon the patient. You stay with the patient, and in an event or some situations where you need to hand over to EMS, you are expected to stay until you formally hand over to the EMS team. Number 5, protect the privacy of the patient. In some cases, the patient may volunteer some personal information. They may volunteer some private information. You're expected to keep it and not to share it with anybody who is not involved in providing care to this patient. Patient rights. Patient has the right to consent to or refuse any first aid care if medically capable. So if the patient is medically capable, then that patient has the right to say yes to what you want to do or to say no. So it is the patient right. It is the patient right that must be respected. And how do you go about this? First aiders must identify themselves. So you have to identify yourself. My name is this. I am trained in first aid is a way to identify yourself, and the patient must be told what is being done and the reason why you are doing that. So you don't keep mute. You have to communicate. You have to provide the rationale, but you need to let the patient know what you are doing and why you are doing that. And number 3, first aider should not force first aid on a patient who is conscious. So if your patient is conscious, you need consent. You need consent. You need voluntary consent. So that patient must give you consent, so you can't force first aid on anybody. Number 4, call 911 if a conscious patient does not consent. So you have requested consent. My name is Tim. I'm trained in first aid. My name is John. My name is Mary. I am trained in first aid. Can I help you? And if the patient says, no, I don't want your help, you don't force your help on that person, you may have to call 911. You may have to call 911 on behalf of that patient. Types of consent. So there are 2 types of consents that you can use depending on the condition or the state of the patient. For example, if the patient is conscious, you use what you call voluntary consent. So patient is conscious, patient is medically capable to make independent decision. First aider should not convince the patient. So you don't have to convince, you don't have to influence this patient. You don't have to, convince. You don't have to. Okay, just request consent and allow the patient to make the decision. You don't force, you don't coerce, you don't threaten, you don't mislead the patient. My name is Peter. Can I help you? That is enough. And then if that patient is conscious, let the patient give you voluntary consent. Another type of consent is implied consent. This one is applicable in a situation where a patient is unconscious, okay, or the patient is a minor and the parents or guardians are not present. So in that case, you use implied consent. You assume yes in that situation. First aid laws. Anyone who attempts to provide first aid is protected by Good Samaritan laws. Anyone who attempts to provide first aid is protected by Good Samaritan law. So this is an important law for you. The potential first aider, or you already have your certificate, or you want to help somebody, you should be aware that there's a law that protects you, and that law is called Good Samaritan law. Good Samaritan laws, what are the objectives? What does this law do for us, the first aiders? What does the law do for us? Let us see. Number one, this law protects first aider from liability when providing first aid. So this law protects you, the first aider, from liability whenever you are providing first aid. Number two, and this law actually encourages people to act in situations requiring first aid. Of course, when you know that there's such a law, it is a kind of encouragement, because you know that such law is on your back. Such law will not allow anybody to just take advantage of you trying to help somebody. So it's an encouragement. So you need to know that there's a law. You are protected. This law protects you. But remember, for this law to protect you, you need to fulfill the 5 obligations that we talked about. I talked about 5 obligations. Use reasonable skills. Don't go outside the scope of first aid. Remember that you need to obtain consent. Don't abandon the patient. And also the privacy of the patient must be protected. Those are the 5 obligations. Once you do the 5 obligations, this law will go a long way to protecting you should there be any litigations. Communication. This is another important building block, foundational concept that is very important that you know as a potential first aider, as somebody who is coming to this training. Okay, communication is important during first aid because you are actually dealing with a human. Most likely you may not be the only person there. So there may be bystanders that are coming to help. The patient is there, so communication is very important. It's the channel through which you relate, or the people involved relate. First aiders should communicate to the best of their abilities. You have to communicate to the best of your abilities. Number one, there are guidelines there. Number one, attention. Pay attention to your patient. The patient will be the best source of information if your patient is conscious. Your patient will be able to give you information about what is going on. Personal space is important, so make sure you give personal space. People may become uneasy if you get so close to them. Listen to your patient. Listen non-judgmentally. So listen to your patient. Body language is important as well. And be careful, be mindful of the terminology you use. Keep it simple. You are expected to step down your communication to grade C. So make it simple. Don't use professional or very difficult terminology that the patient may not be familiar with. So keep it simple. Politeness is important, and of course you need to be like a professional, even though nobody is gonna pay you. First aid is free, nobody is paying you. Despite that, you are still expected to act like a professional. You must be polite to your patient. Okay, so those are the important guidelines that we should be familiar with. and we should take them to our heart. Personal protection and safety, very important. Personal protection and safety. Personal protection and safety is important during first aid. How else do you want to say that? It is important during first aid. Personal protection and safety. The purpose is to protect the first aider and patient. So that's it. You are protecting yourself from hazard, physical hazard and biological hazard too. Okay, what the first aider should be aware of. Number one, hazard is everywhere. There is no hazard-free environment. There is none. There is none. So hazard is everywhere. Okay, on the road, in a place of work, at home. Hazard, something like wet floor could be a hazard. The moving vehicles could be a hazard. You know, so hazard, even when you're coming down the stairs, okay, so that's hazard. The boiling water in the kitchen is hazard. So there's hazard, even when you eat, there are hazards involved. Choking can happen. So everywhere you go, you expect that there will be hazard. Every person is potentially infectious, so that is another reason why you should take this seriously. There is no person on this earth that is not potentially infectious. Okay, most diseases run in the blood, and of course they don't. You can't see it written on somebody's face. If somebody is infectious, if somebody has any disease in the blood, it's not written. It's not conspicuous. So you have to assume that that patient you want to help, that person, be it an infant, child, adult, be it a family member or non-family member, a co-worker, you know, that person, whether he's a government official, whether he's a teacher or a student, that person is potentially infectious. So this one must be taken into consideration. It is the responsibility of the first aiders to protect themselves. So of course, it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to protect yourself. So protect yourself, please. Routes of disease transmission. So there are 4 of them: direct contact, indirect contact, airborne transmission, and vector borne. So direct contact from the infected person to the first aider. So it's from the carrier to the potential recipient, nothing in between. Indirect contact, there is something in between from the infected person to an object. So there's always an object in the middle separating the person who has the disease and the person who may pick it. Okay, example is you go to, let's assume you go to, somebody has, flu, and then that person goes to the bus or train, okay, or even go to classroom and touches something, and then goes and sit down, and 2 or 3 seconds after, another person comes, touches the same spot, and then rub his face, he will get that. That is indirect contact. Airborne, the infected person releases droplets. That should be droplets into the air, which the first aider then breathe in. So droplet that floats in the air. So if you breathe it in, you may get that. Vector-borne, an insect or animal can introduce infected microbes to a person through bites, or insect bite, animal bite. A good example is mosquito that can transmit malaria. Okay, that is vector-borne. means to protect oneself. How do you protect yourself? Seeing that there are hazards everywhere, physical hazard, biological hazard, especially those microorganisms, we don't see them. How do we protect ourselves? Hand washing is the key. Okay, hand sanitizers and alcohol hand solution should not replace hand washing. So that's why you should know. So hand wash is always number one, and you have to before, after. Okay, gloves, that's another popular one, another popular medium through which you can create a barrier between you and the person that may be potentially infectious. You yourself could be potentially infectious. So when you do this, you're also protecting patient from getting disease from you, the first aider. So gloves should be worn when dealing with bodily fluids such as vomit, urine, blood, feces. Safety goggles should be considered when dealing with splashing blood or other bodily fluid. If they are splashing, then consider safety goggles. Masks should be worn when caring for any patient with productive cough. Okay. It is also required when giving breath to patient during CPR. CPR is a popular topic. It's one of the topics you are going to see when you attend the training. And during CPR, you give chest compressions, and then if you have the pocket masks or face shield, then you breathe into the patient. So you need to do that through masks to protect yourself from contracting any disease. So yes, thank you so much. This discussion will continue to be continued in lesson 2. So lesson 2 is where we're going to continue from. Meanwhile, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have started the journey. Please don't stop. Look out for lesson 2. Lesson 2 will be maybe already there or will be uploaded in near future. So thank you, and please, I want you to like the video, comment, put your comment. There's a comment box below. Just type how you feel, put something so that somebody will read. Share it. If you have somebody you want to refer to the training, please share it to the person. Tell the person, share the link, give the person the link, and then subscribe if you have not done that. Please do that. And again, follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and you can see our X handle at First Aid CPR2. So number 2, and then you are going to see a lot of trainings, a lot of discussions, very, very valuable, head-oriented teachings and discussions on X. Please be part of it. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you, and I really, really appreciate the time that you have put, and I am sure that you have gotten some valuable awareness and knowledge. And lesson 2 is going to be uploaded soon, so watch out for that, or you can go to the teacher channel and then see whether it is there already. There are other videos on the teacher channel. There are many other videos. Please, I want you to check out those videos. Quizzes are there too. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.